Okay, good morning, guys and ladies. Welcome back to day 2 of our online experience. Glad you're all here. We don't have a full class yet, but I'll begin. What we're going to do today is I have a couple of videos to show you in regards to our chapter work in chapter 6. And also we're going to go over problem 6-3A from the assignments from the work at the end of the chapter. Also, I'm going to go over some additional administrative experiences. Remember, when you log into the Zoom class, mute your microphone. And if you have to make a statement or a comment or a question, you can unmute it. Also, use the chat feature to ask me a question as well throughout the class. Today, we also have office hours this afternoon. Wednesday office hours from 1 to 3. The link is in your Blackboard. If any of you personally want to be in touch with me to go over anything, maybe examination number 1, maybe your status in the class and how you're feeling, or just anything, we have office hours for our class this afternoon from 1 to 3 p.m. You can come on at any time. It doesn't mean you have to come in at 1 o'clock. You can come in at 2:55 if you'd like. So if you have any issues or anything you want to discuss with me, feel free to do that this afternoon. All right. So our going back to our Blackboard here, just a couple of additional things to note in Blackboard for you. Under week 7. You now see a file folder called Chapter 6, Review Problems and Solutions. It's I've given you a whole in your syllabus. I've listed a bunch of exercises and review problems. 6.3 we're going to talk about today. There are solutions to those problems to use as a study guide for that. Please take advantage of that. Also, I've given you another link to our YouTube video or YouTube playlist. Not this week, but beginning next week. Let me bring up our YouTube playlist here. There it is right there. Let me know if you guys can't see that, but I think you can. This is our YouTube site, and if you go to playlists, you'll find our class, and here it is right here, Accounting Fundamentals. You click on View the Playlist, and there's a bunch of videos talking about our class and our class work. Here's the introduction video from Sunday that I presented to you. And here's all subsequent videos about the work in our class. There's the break-even point. These will be increased every week. I will add videos to this week and as well to our Blackboard that you can use as resources to your studies. Okay, so it's our playlist in YouTube, Accounting 202, Fundamentals of Accounting, Spring 2020. You can go to that playlist and look at current videos explaining the topics of our class, and that is a good reference source for you. So please take advantage of that. So that's that included in Blackboard. Also included in Blackboard, please note the class discussion forum. This is an area that you can ask me questions where you don't have to be online. You can open up this forum and ask me a question about the work, about the material, about any problems you're having with the technology, about any issues you're having with just managing this online nonsense. I shouldn't say nonsense, that's awful. this online work. And then you can put that in these questions, and I look at this daily, and if you have any specific questions, you can ask in that forum there. So that's the highlight for administratively with our Blackboard for this week. This weekend, you will not have any work to do, letting you just take all this online stuff in this week. Next week, I will be having work assignments for you to do over the weekend before the next class, but we'll talk about that next week in our discussions. So I want to show you all a couple of videos this morning. And one video is introducing what we talked about on Monday. And the video is a very short one, but it's by the publisher, the writer of this textbook that we're using. And let's take a look at this video now. Let me bring this up. Okay, this is a video by the author of our text, introducing chapter 6 to our studies, and it just kind of summarized our discussion of Monday. So I'll play that video for you. If you cannot hear it or see it, be sure to let me know via the chat room. Thanks all. Here we go.
In this chapter, you learn additional applications of cost, volume, profit concepts, such as sales mix issues and limited resource decisions. You will also learn about operating leverage. Consider this: why do some businesses, such as automobile manufacturers, do extremely well when the economy is strong, but flirt with bankruptcy whenever there is a recession? While all businesses do better in a strong economy, automobile manufacturers are far more susceptible to economic swings than other businesses. One of the main reasons is their cost structure. Automobile manufacturers have huge factories with very expensive automated equipment. This means they have high fixed costs. To cover these fixed costs, that is, to break even, they need to sell a lot of cars. However, once they have covered their fixed costs, their profitability increases rapidly. So when times are good, they are really good. This is called operating leverage. Other companies structure their operations much differently. For example, some famous clothing and shoe companies do not own any manufacturing facilities. Instead, they outsource their operations. This means that more of their costs are variable. This reduces their exposure to changes in sales volume, but it also reduces their upside. Managers need to understand how operating leverage affects their operations and plan accordingly.
So as you can see, that's a review of the contribution margin that we were talking about on Monday. The relationship between fixed costs, variable costs, and the selling price of your unit. And as we discussed, knowing that relationship determines how fast we get to profitability. In determining the contribution margin, is that we're able to look at different product lines and determine when we can get to profitability. So that's an important concept, and we're going to look at a problem that resembles that in problem 6-3A in just a minute. Now I want to give you a real-world video of a store that I shop at called Whole Foods Markets. I mean, I'm sure some of you or your family shop at Whole Foods. I'm going to show you a video of how Whole Foods manage this concept of cost volume. But before I get to that video, I just want to acknowledge some of our international students who are coming online with us in our classroom this week. A couple of them are in Thailand, a couple of them are in Taiwan, and they're able to sign into our class. But it's the big thing about that is, and the most impressive thing, it happens to be 1 o'clock in the morning in those countries. And they're coming online in the middle of the night to take this class. A little bit different than us here in Laverne in California, where we're coming on at 10 in the morning. Some of our students are coming on in the middle of the night and making the commitment to learn and keep their education going. So I want to thank you all for doing that in the middle of the night. We appreciate your commitment to the course. Okay, so now that I got my political words out of the way, let me bring up my the video from Whole Foods Market. And this is an interesting video that talks about how Whole Foods manages this type of relationship.
Michael Bessenkamp has worked for Whole Foods for most of his adult life. He loves his job, and that has a lot to do with the fact that he feels good about the Whole Foods mission.
The number one core value of Whole Foods Market is to sell the highest quality natural and organic food possible. Every store at Whole Foods Market is different, and every store has a feel. You could blindfold me and take me into a Whole Foods Market anywhere in the country, and I would know I was in a Whole Foods if I didn't see any signs, because I would know it by the feel.
Whole Foods sells mostly organic groceries with an emphasis on fresh produce. Their commitment to sustainable agriculture, collaboration with suppliers, and community wellness makes them a premium brand that costs a little more than their big box competitors. But maintaining high quality and great value for the customers without
Sorry, temporary problem with my network here. Bear with me. Oh, well, in all technology, there always is a problem. I had a little spike in my Wi-Fi here, and it kind of shut everything off. Let me just try this again. Hang on. Well, it doesn't come back. Sorry about that. Well, I'll just go ahead and finish out what the video was going to talk about. If any of you ever been to Whole Foods is owned by Amazon, Amazon.com. And they've initiated a lot of procedures to determine their profitabilities using contribution margins. Remember, the definition of contribution margin is the fixed cost, is the selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit. That's the contribution margin. In other words, the difference between selling price and your variable costs. That contribution margin goes into the fixed cost to determine at what point you're making a profit. The key things that he was going to talk about in this Whole Food store is they try to keep their fixed cost as minimum as possible, keeping their fixed costs down. That's why Amazon bought this company. They no longer, Whole Foods, before they were owned by Amazon, rented their facilities, rented everything. That means they had high fixed cost. When Amazon took over the company, they purchased all the assets, all the plants, all the stores, so there was no longer rent, thus reducing their fixed costs. Amazon had such amount of capital that they could do this. Thus, Whole Foods gets to profitability quicker because they have less fixed costs. So that was one of the that was the key point of this video, and I'm sorry I got cut short. Sometimes when I go when we have a lot of use online here, my bandwidth shrinks and it cuts off certain network video, which I was downloading that video from a network site, and that's what happened. So I apologize. Okay, so let me continue on with that discussion that video was going to take place. It's problem 6-3 in your textbook. Let me bring that up. Here's problem 6-3 in your textbook. If you don't have your textbook with you, that's all right. I've got this here on the screen. And this is a problem that talks about the issues that Whole Foods was talking about, and was also talking about, the gentleman who wrote this text was talking about in that video, how to determine break-even sales using alternative sales strategies and evaluate results. For example, here's a company, the Grand Inn in Arizona, that has different types of menu items with different price range: appetizers, main entries, desserts, and beverages, and the contribution margin that they produce as profit. All right. Remember, the higher the contribution margin, the greater it's easier to quicker to get to profitability. It means the difference between selling price and variable costs is very minimal. Notice beverages, 80% contribution margin. If any of you have ever worked in a restaurant, where do companies make a lot of money? On their beer and wine sales, on their sales of soda and soft drinks. That has high contribution margins. Whereas their main entrees, they don't make as much money. The reason for that: food costs, delivery costs, people costs. There's low margins, contribution margins associated with that. So here in this problem, in this company in Arizona, it says the owner, Paul, or the manager of the store, is considering a variety of options to try to improve the profitability of the restaurant. His goal is to generate a target net income of $117,000. The company has fixed costs of $1,053,000. Calculate, in part A, calculate the total restaurant sales and the sales of each product line that would be necessary to achieve the targeted net income. In other words, if this company wants to make 117 grand in profit, how much do they have to sell based on the contribution margins of these 4 different areas? Remember, if they sold a lot of beverages, they're going to get the profitability quicker. But if they have main entrees, a lot of people just come into the restaurant just to eat, desserts, appetizers, different profitability margins for that. So here's that calculation that I've given you. And again, as I told you, these are now located in Blackboard in our week 7 problem review solutions. But I'd like you to use this as a study guide, because in future work, in future examinations, you're going to have a problem just like this, where I give you different areas of revenue stream and what the margins there is in relationship to that revenue stream. Excuse me. So let's take a look at the answers. So as it says here, what I do is I determine, in the problem, they give us the percentage of sales mix of revenue of the appetizers, the main entries, entrees, desserts, and beverages. And then they give us the contribution margin. What I do then is take a weighted average of that contribution margin. 15% of 50% is 0.075. 50% of 25%, 0.125. 10% of 50%, 0.05. 25% of 80% is 0.2. I add all those weighted margins, it's 45%. So if I know I have fixed costs of $1,053,000, I want to add to those fixed costs what I want as targeted net income. I want to make a profit of $117,000. I divide that by my weighted contribution margin, determined by all the percentages and ratios of my menu, of my revenue stream. That means the company has to sell $2.6 million of sales to make that $117,000 profit based on these margins. So their break even, or their profit area to make $117,000 is $2.6 million. Now, the next question is what percentage or what part of those sales comes from those 4 menu items? Well, if the sales percentage mix is 15% of appetizers, $390,000. So if we sell $390,000 of appetizers, we know they're picking up their share of our profits. 50% is our main entrees, $1.3 million. Desserts, 10%, $260,000. Beverages, 25%, $650,000. So under each one of these revenue lines, if we meet those revenue lines, we're going to make our $117,000 profit. So this is what managerial accounting does for restaurants, for companies with different types of menu items or products. They determine the margins for each one of those products and then determine our history as we sell a certain sales mix of those areas, and we get to our profitability. This is a very important concept of managing accounting data. How did we get these contribution margins? Remember, it's the relationship of selling price to variable cost. Selling price to variable cost. Okay, that's the answer to that first part of problem 6.3. The question is, number one, how much do we have to sell based on our current sales mix of our revenue items and the relationship of variable cost to selling price, the contribution margin ratio? We have to sell $2.6 million. What piece of that is for each item? There you go. So when companies put together budgets and plans for an operating year, they'll go ahead and do this analysis, and now they have a way of tracking their revenue streams to see if they're matching what they need to sell in order to make that, in this case, $117,000 profit. Okay. Not too exciting for 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, but at the same time, very important to understand the concept of how a business would achieve profitability using this types of information. Now let's look at the second part of this problem. Part B. Paul believes the restaurant could greatly improve its profitability by reducing the complexity and selling price of its entrees to increase the number of clients that it serves. It would then more heavily market its appetizers and beverages. Why? Appetizers and beverages where you have a high profitability. He is proposing to reduce the contribution margin ratio of the main entrees to 10%. By dropping the average selling price, he envisions an expansion of the restaurant that will increase its fixed cost by $585,000. At the same time, he would be proposing to change the sales mix of the following. There it is there. Compute the total restaurant sales and the sales of each product line that would be necessary to achieve the desired targeted net income. All right. So in other words, we now don't want to increase our profitability by adjusting our ratios, adjusting our percentage of sales, and at the same time, we're going to be increasing our fixed cost. What does that look like? Well, let's take a look at it. Now notice we're changing the weighted average contribution margin ratio. We're going to be changing that because of the change in his philosophy of managing his restaurant. Appetizers is now 25% of the sales mix. There's the weighted. The main entrees, 10%. The desserts and beverages, and I think my computer here got this a little mixed up, but now the weighted average margin is now gone from 0.45 to 0.52. We've increased that by selling more, hopefully. So now our fixed income expenses are going to be increased by $585,000 to $1,638,000. Add in that profit of $117,000. Notice the answer to our problem now is $3,375,000 of sales to reach our profitability. Note that as difference. In the old Part A problem, we needed $2.6 million of sales to reach that. Now it's gone up $3,375,000, a change dramatically by how he plans to operate the business. The point I'm trying to make here is if you know these relationships of variable cost, selling price, and what you plan and do a strategy of selling this, you can determine a plan of achieving profitability and gives you the knowledge of how you're going to do that, what your volume has to be. That's important. But I think the key part of this problem here is understanding, as I looked at in part A and also in part B, this relationship to determine sales and profitability. Percentage sales mix, what part of the business this incorporates, what's the ratio of contribution, variable cost to selling price, the weighted times your goals of knowing what your total fixed costs are and what type of profit you're going to make, you can determine how many sales you can make. 2.6 million, 3.375. This is a key problem or key determination of Chapter 6, understanding the relationship of cost and volume, cost, volume, sales percentage, contribution margin ratio, and also adding into it what we desire to achieve as profitability. We just don't, no company that I know of, just want, maybe nowadays in this new economy, but no company I know about wants to break even. They don't want to make any money. Everybody wants to make a profit. It's just a question, can you achieve that profit by how many sales, how many units, how many meals, how many beverages do you have to produce and sell to your customers to achieve that profitability? This gives you an idea how much that volume has to be to achieve the desired profit. Trust me, today in Founders Hall at the University of Laverne, a lot of people are putting together these numbers knowing that the volume of students are going to change due to the relationship of our new online structure for the balance of the semester, how that is going to generate in revenue, what percent of our students are undergraduate, graduate, what percent of our students live in dormitories, don't live in dormitories. That percentage, that contribution margin is determining what our volume, what's going to be our expectations of income and profitability or bottom line for the university. I would think a lot of them now are determining, I don't think we're going to be increasing our tuition next year in order to keep the volume of students the same. I think a lot of students are going to be, and families are going to be in tough financial hardship. An additional increase in tuition ain't going to be good for our institution. So I would start thinking about maybe no tuition increases next year and maybe even reduce costs of going to school in order to maintain that percentage, that volume that's necessary to keep students in school. A lot of companies are doing this company-wide these days. I think during these time periods of companies not of laying off people, they're trying to determine when they bring those people back to the workforce in their businesses, what's going to have to be the volume necessary to make their profits or cover their costs. That's why a lot of this is very important these days. Let me take a look at one last part of this problem, 6-3A. Mason's drinking a beer. That's good to see. Haha. Okay, hang on, let me bring this up. In part C, it says, suppose the manager, Paul, reduces the selling price on entrees and increases fixed cost as proposed in part B, but customers are not swayed by the marketing efforts and the sales mix remains that as in part A. Let's say by doing these adjustments in part B, nothing happens and it's still the same as in part A. That's what they're saying. Compute the total restaurant sales and the sales of each product line that would be necessary to achieve the targeted net income. This probably is going to look ugly. In other words, we're going to maintain these same percentage of sales, but our fixed costs are going to increase by $585,000. Let's take a look at how that affects our business operations. That's part C of this problem. And here it is right here. Notice that we have, if the sales mix remains the same, this is part A, part C, now the sales mix is going to change a little bit Because of that, the average weighted cost of capital, or average weighted computed in Part A is 45%. That's our contribution margin. With the contribution ratio on entrees falling to 10%, that average will now be 37.5. Applying this to the new fixed costs, targeted net income, we get a sales of $4.6 million. In other words, what do we have to do if these things don't change? If our sales mix stays the same, how is that going to affect our profitability? I think the key thing to remember in problem 6.3, as I scoot up here and not try to get you seasick, is just understanding, there it is, make sure you understand Part A, especially. Highlight that in your review. Part A, what is when you're given the sales mix percentage, when you're given the contribution margin ratio, determine the weighted average ratio, knowing that your fixed costs are, knowing what your profitability is, you can determine your expected sales volume. This is an important part of Chapter 6 that I want you especially to concentrate on. Part A, you'll have a problem like this in your next examination. So note that in your records. What I would like you to do over the weekend, if you feel up to it, is I'd like you to go to problem 6.4a, which is right here, and try to do this problem. The solutions are in Blackboard already, but try to do it on your own. This is what we've just talked about in 6.3a. Now, in future weeks, I'm probably going to ask you to post this work and I will grade it. This week, I am not going to do that. This is just on your own study. I'm going to give you a little bit of break this week because things are so confusing and changing for a lot of us. Let's just make sure we can do this problem. But in future weeks, I will give you one problem a week that I would like you to do and post to Blackboard that I will grade. But this week, again, this is voluntary. You don't have to do it. But this is problem 6.4a. I'd like you to try to do this under what they're talking about here. They give you some check notes or check figures. Also, I have the solutions in Blackboard. I like to use this as a study guide for this weekend in your studies, problem 6.4a. Okay? Now, I want to go back to our Blackboard site. Nobody's asking me any questions. That's pretty good. Or maybe it's not good. Oops, where I am, sorry. There we go. There we go. Okay, sorry, guys. So I got so many files open, I lose track of where I'm at. So again, going back to week 7 in Blackboard, you can see the review problems from chapter 6. We looked at 6.3 today. 6.4 is work I'd like you to look at, and the solutions are there, but that's your study guide. These exercises are there just for additional backup material to these problems. Their solutions are there. But again, if you concentrate on 6.3 and understand that problem, you should be able to do 6-4. 6.3 is the key problem here where you'll be assessed later in examinations. The procedure is every Sunday at the noon hour, I post an introduction video for the coming week. So this Sunday, I will post a video for week 8 in Blackboard and in YouTube. They will prepare you for our work in the upcoming week. I will post problems without their answers at the beginning of the week. And then as the week goes on, I will post those solutions to you. But also next week, you will have a take-home problem to do for a grade as part of your assessment in this class, since we're now in an online format. So that's the procedures that we'll be doing every week. I'll be having some videos. Sorry about the one video today that didn't work out, but that'll be our procedures going forward every week. We have office hours Wednesday afternoons from 1 to 3 that you can come and ask me specific questions. I think the material is fairly clean and easy this week, not too many crazy things like equivalent units and that sort of thing. So I think that's manageable to you. But I don't think, if you do have any issues or questions or want to review examination number 1, please stop in the office hours this afternoon and see me. I'm going to try one more time that Whole Foods Market video again, because it's a real good one. So I'm going to try to do that again. So bear with me. No can do. Darn it. All right, lesson learned today. I have to prepare that a little bit better in the future. So lesson learned. Sorry about that. Okay, but I will be posting some additional videos, and maybe I'll try to get that Whole Foods Market video posted as well to Blackboard. Now, a couple other notes. I am recording this session today. I am recording this we have some students who cannot attend today due to family issues. We have some students who are not attending today that I have no understanding why they're not attending, and I will find that out. But I am also recording those issues. I'm mainly recording it for the students who told me they will not be in class today because of some family issues and also some health issues. So I told them that was more important. So I am recording this session, and this session will be available to review by those students. And if any of you would like to review it, you can go ahead and do that as well. I'm just now going to take a quick attendance of our team here to make sure who I know that is not here. One moment, please. See, I can see everybody's here, so I don't have to call attendance. I can just see it here. Okay, very good. So again, this session is being recorded so you can view it later. All right, I'm approaching my goodbye hour because I have another meeting with some other professors this morning in regards to our online education. So I want to just make sure, does anybody would like to open up their mic or post a chat question to me this morning? Anybody have anything they would like to know? Go ahead, Mike.
So for the appointment, do we go through the Zoom link on
Yes.
Blackboard too?
Yeah, if I sent in the Blackboard under Zoom links, you'll see a link to the office hours on Wednesday, Mike. You can just click on that and I'll be there between 1 and 3 this afternoon, okay?
Got it, thank you.
It's just as easy, just like signing into class. It's that easy. So I'll be there this afternoon if you have any issues. Thanks, Mike. And hello, Anna, as she puts on her video. Very nice. Any other questions anybody have? You guys are too easy. Way too easy. Take advantage of those videos in YouTube. They will help you. Probably not so much with the material we've talked about this week. It's pretty easy stuff. But as things are going to get a little bit more hairier as we proceed into next week, and those videos are there so you don't have to look at my ugly mug all the time. And you can go to those videos and also review the material with those videos. If we were having regular class sessions, we would be talking about that. But with those videos, that can supplement some of that work in our class. That's President Lieberman calling me right now, wondering what the hell's going on with the university, if you hear my phone ring. So, all right, enough of that nonsense. One of the things I want to maintain in our class is maintain some sense of humor, even though we're all scaring each other by looking at each other in the videos. Cameron, wake up. I see you there. and make sure that we're all doing okay. So if there's no other questions, I want to thank again our international students who are speaking to us from other parts of the world in the middle of the night. Thank you guys, I really appreciate that. And keep in touch, and we'll see you all next Monday. Again, unless I see you this afternoon in our office hours. Let's make sure we all stay healthy. Again, if you have any other issues or hassles with this format in other courses and you need somebody to point you in the right direction, you guys can call on me. Anna, did I see your hand raised, or are you just scratching your head? Okay. All right, guys, thanks a lot. That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow, Monday. Have a great weekend. I know we can't do too much. I'm getting sick of watching replays of NCAA basketball. But besides that, take care, and we'll see you next week. All right? Adios. Take care.
See you later, Mr. Hassey.
All right, guys, take care.
Bye, Professor. Bye.
See you, Professor. Take care.
All righty.
See you, Mr. Hassey.
Thank you. Bye, Anna. See you, Zinnia. Bye, Celeste.